Located in the South Caucasus, Nagorno-Karabakh is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but is controlled by ethnic Armenian forces backed by Armenia. The conflict dates back to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Ever since, Armenia and Azerbaijan have claimed Nagorno-Karabakh as their own territory, a so-called frozen conflict that remains unresolved 4 decades later.
Armenia, located in the Caucasus region, has a population of 3 million and is a country that has been made a focal point of geopolitical interest in the past couple of years. Central to this has been the controversy over Nagorno-Karabakh, a region that has been fiercely contested by both Armenia and Azerbaijan. To understand how it got to this point, we must go back to the early 20th century. In 1923, the Soviet Union established the Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Oblast, predominantly inhabited by ethnic Armenians within the Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic. This unique geopolitical arrangement set the stage for future tensions. In 1988, these tensions intensified when Nagorno-Karabakh's legislature announced its desire to merge with Armenia, even though it was situated within Azerbaijani territory. This declaration exacerbated the long-standing ethnic tensions between the Azerbaijani and Armenian communities. The dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991 further complicated the situation as both Armenia and Azerbaijan achieved statehood. Nagorno-Karabakh officially declared independence during this tumultuous period, which ultimately led to an all-out war in the region. As the Soviet Union crumbled, so did peace in the region. The early 1990s saw devastating warfare with casualties reaching approximately 30,000 and hundreds of thousands being displaced. By 1993, Armenia had secured Nagorno-Karabakh and a significant portion of Azerbaijani territory. In 1994, Russia brokered a ceasefire known as the Bishkek Protocol, leaving Nagorno-Karabakh de facto independent. It established a self-proclaimed government in Stepanakert, but the region remained heavily reliant on close economic, political, and military ties with Armenia. April 2016 marked significant clashes along the line of contact, the most severe since the 1994 ceasefire. The conflict resulted in hundreds of casualties. These confrontations raised concerns over a larger-scale conflict. After 4 days of intense fighting, the two sides announced they had agreed to cease hostilities. However, a breakdown in subsequent talks led to both sides accusing each other of ceasefire violations, demonstrating the fragility of the situation.
And in 2020, which ended after a ceasefire agreement. The latest source of tension is the continuing blockade by Azeri forces of the Lachin Corridor, an area of land linking Armenia to Nagorno-Karabakh, preventing those living there getting essential supplies such as food and medicine.
The long-standing tensions in the region came to a head in September 2020. Heavy fighting broke out along the Azerbaijan-Nagorno-Karabakh border, leading to more than 7,000 soldiers and civilians killed and hundreds more wounded. As the conflict intensified, both nations resisted international calls for dialogue. Tensions escalated further as both sides transitioned from cross-border shelling to deploying larger-range artillery and other heavy weaponry. Following several failed attempts by Russia, France, and the United States to negotiate a ceasefire, Russia successfully managed to mediate a ceasefire on the 9th of November in 2020. This ceasefire was reinforced by Russian peacekeepers, ending the 6-week Second Nagorno-Karabakh War. I visited Armenia at the end of August this year, and when it comes to the present political issues, there were no signs of any trouble or tension brewing, except for our last night when I was walking back to my Airbnb and came across a protest in support of Artsakh. The second sign was seeing a French humanitarian convoy leading to Artsakh. Besides this, I encountered no signs of tension or any politically related element. Less than a month later, the country descended into chaos. With protests in Yerevan and the unfortunate displacement of Armenians in the Nagorno-Karabakh region, the situation seems to have become worse and worse. Armenians are protesting in Yerevan following the Azerbaijani-launched full-scale military assault on the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh, claiming that Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan did not do enough to stop the situation, as well as expressing their discontent with Russia's lack of involvement.
2018 թվականից ողբու սուկ բերեց Փաշինյանը մեզ, դրա համար էլ մենք ուզում ենք, որ ինքը հրաժարական տա, քանի որ իր ներկայությունը պատերազմ ու ողբ է բերում։ Չենք ուզում իրեն։ Մենք ստեղ նստելու ենք երկար մինչև առավոտյան, մինչև իրեն պահանջենք իր հրաժարականը եւ ինքը պետք է
Tigran Grigoryan, a political analyst based in Yerevan, suggests that Pashinyan's government is likely to maintain control over the security services, which would help it withstand opposition protests. However, Grigoryan points out that if Azerbaijan were to engage in the ethnic cleansing of Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh, it wouldn't only reflect Russia's reluctance to intervene, but also signify a failure of diplomatic efforts by the US and the EU. Ethnic cleansing is taking place on their watch. But if the EU and US don't act, they will lose all their credibility alongside Russia. Many reports suggest that ethnic cleansing by the Azeri army had already been happening in the Nagorno-Karabakh region. There has also been reports of heavy shelling in the capital of the Artsakh region, Stepanankert or Khankendi. Armenian officials said that 84,770 people had left Nagorno-Karabakh by Friday morning out of a total population of around 120,000. This number may look different today. Azerbaijani President Aliyev assures that ethnic Armenians' rights will be protected by law, stating that only illegal armed formations and military facilities have been targeted. Many Armenians fleeing the region report hunger and fear, describing it as a dark chapter in Armenian history. The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is not merely a local dispute, but a geopolitical battleground for regional and global powers. Several key external actors influence and are influenced by the situation. Russia. As a regional power with historical ties to Armenia, Russia has a significant stake in the conflict. It provides military support to Armenia through a defense pact and deploys peacekeepers in the region. Russia's role in mediating ceasefire agreements and peace talks is pivotal, However, Russia also maintains close relations with Azerbaijan and seeks to balance its interests. Hence why the majority of Armenians were complaining about Russia's lack of efforts in helping out Armenia in this conflict. Turkey. Turkey supports Azerbaijan both politically and militarily. It has been a vocal advocate for Azerbaijani territorial integrity and played a role in the 2020 conflict by supplying drones and mercenaries. Turkey's involvement complicates the situation given its historical tensions with Armenia and its desire to expand its influence in the South Caucasus. Iran. Iran shares borders with both Armenia and Azerbaijan and has a significant ethnic Azerbaijani population. It maintains a delicate balancing act, not overtly supporting either side. However, instability in the South Caucasus can potentially affect Iran's security and its relationship with its Azeri minority. Western powers. The United States and Europe have been engaged diplomatically in the conflict through the OSCE Minsk group. They provide humanitarian aid and express concerns about human rights abuses. However, their ability to influence the situation is limited, especially when faced with the competing interests of Russia and Turkey. Israel. Israel has historically had close military ties with Azerbaijan, selling it weapons and drones. These ties have caused tensions with Armenia, which views Israel's support for Azerbaijan as problematic. The humanitarian consequences of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict have been severe and persistent. Displacement. The conflict has led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people, both internally within Armenia and Azerbaijan and across borders. Many are unable to return to their homes, leading to a protracted refugee crisis. Casualties. The conflict has resulted in a high number of casualties, including civilians. Hospitals and healthcare infrastructure in the region have been strained, making access to medical care a significant challenge. Cultural heritage. The destruction and damage to cultural heritage sites, including churches and monuments, are of historical and cultural significance to the people of the region. Economic impact. The conflict has had a negative impact on the economies of Armenia and Azerbaijan, diverting resources away from development and causing economic instability. The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict holds several geopolitical implications for the region and beyond. Regional stability. The conflict destabilizes the South Caucasus region, hindering economic development and increasing security risks. Instability could potentially spread to neighboring regions as well. Energy pipelines. The South Caucasus is a critical transit route for oil and natural gas from the Caspian Sea to global markets. Any disruption in the region could affect energy supplies, impacting global energy security. International alliances. The conflict tests the loyalties and alliances of regional and global powers. It highlights the complex interplay between Russia, Turkey, and Western countries in the South Caucasus. Ethnic and religious dynamics. The conflict resonates beyond its borders, impacting diaspora communities such as the large Armenian diaspora. It also stirs up ethnic and religious sentiments, potentially fueling other regional disputes. The Nagorno-Karabakh region, deeply entrenched in historical animosities and further complicated by external geopolitical interests, stands as a geopolitical hotspot in the South Caucasus. As regional and global powers compete for dominance, the innocent local population continues to bear the brunt of the conflict. For a lasting peace, what's paramount is a genuine, neutral, and comprehensive diplomatic effort that emphasizes human welfare and stability over territorial gains and strategic advantages. We can only hope that the outcome will be peaceful, but with recent events leaving Armenia with a sour taste, the tension in the region suggests the opposite.
How long before this becomes an actual war?
I think you are mistaken. We are in a full-scale war.
At the police checkpoint, we find many angry locals who are gathering to try to get any news about their family members who are trapped in Nagorno-Karabakh. One man throws red paint on the ground to symbolize the blood of the Armenian people.
After years of unrest and upheaval, the war between Nagorno-Karabakh and Azerbaijan is finally over. The devastated region announcing today it will dissolve and cease to exist by the new year, now under Azerbaijani control. The announcement coming after more than 70,000 ethnic Armenians have fled their homeland in recent days, more than half the population, and more appear to be en route.